200 years ago, a rabbi lived, and his name was Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Now, a lot of times we start a story and we say, once upon a time, and once upon a time cues us that, well, the story may or may not have happened, the characters may or may not be real. 200 years ago says he was a real person. He was really there. His name was Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. He lived in Lithuania. He was one of the most important rabbis of his time. He was a pretty cool guy. He founded an entire movement of Jewish thinking called Musar, Jewish ethical movement of ethical living. And it is said, that's the cue that maybe this part may or may not have happened, it is said. He was really alive. But it is said that he did his best thinking walking home and around his home late at night in his neighborhood. Does anyone else? Maybe you do your best thinking while walking, and he liked to walk when it was late, when the people he knew from his shul wouldn't necessarily be saying hello to him on the street. That's when he was quiet and he could get his thinking done. And he was walking one night thinking, maybe he was preparing a high holiday sermon. He saw a light on in a house, in a window, and it was very, very late. And he couldn't understand why someone's light would be on, so he did what any normal person would do. He approached the house. And he knocked on the door, and a woman answered and invited him inside. The rabbi's come to our home. Invited him inside, and in the front room, there sat a tailor. And the tailor was sitting over his table, bent over his work, and he was working, hemming something to the light of a candle that was so close to burning out. And the rabbi asked, "Why are you working so late? And to the light of a candle that's nearly extinguished, why don't you go to sleep? You'll be fresh in the morning, there will be sunshine, you'll do better work." And the tailor, without looking up from his work, replied, "As long as the flame is still burning, there is still time to fix what is wrong." Well, the rabbi was struck by that one. He continued wandering late into the night, thinking about that line. As long as the flame is still burning, one can still fix what is wrong. Now, you may think you know where this sermon is going. It might not be a surprise to you to hear your rabbi talk about fixing what is wrong from the Bima. And the idea is deeply rooted in our Jewish consciousness. Usually we talk about the words tikkun olam, right? Repairing our world or fixing our world. And there are so many ways to frame this obligation, but it is clear that we have a unique and important role in our world, which is to make it a better, more whole place. But that is not why I told the story. Tonight, I'm inspired by this story because we are in a particular Jewish season. This is the season of Elul, the month of Elul leading up to the high holidays. And this season is dedicated to a very specific kind of tikkun, the repair of our hearts and our souls. We spend the month of Elul preparing, as I said, and it involves a lot more than cleaning our houses before the guests come, or buying everything we need from the grocery store, or maybe preparing a high holiday sermon or two, and making sure you have your high holiday tickets. All very important in this season. But the real preparation is a spiritual preparation. During this season, we are preparing spiritually for these days of awe, ready to start a new year fresh. And just like the tailor late at night, our candles are burning down as we get closer and closer to Rosh Hashanah. But as long as the flame is burning, it is not too late. It's not too late to repair. Or maybe a better, more gentle framing for this year, it is not too late to reflect and to intentionally change. I like the idea of intentional change because there's not necessarily anything negative associated with change. Change can be hard, but repair to me says something is broken. Something is torn, and we certainly have language in our Jewish prayers about our torn souls. But this year, maybe specifically this year, it is so clear that the world is full of brokenness and of pain. And for me this year, it's important for me to remember that we are not broken. We are not torn. We as individuals and we as a community, we're whole. Even when we may feel broken, when we come together, we are whole. And yet, we still seek to change, to grow, and to begin a new year with new hope and new energy for what's to come. Traditionally, during this month of Elul, we blow the shofar once a day. You may be receiving those shofar blasts via our Kol Ami email blasts. But the sound of the shofar each day during Elul is a reminder. Wake up. Wake up. Not just your body, not just your mind, but your soul. The work of the season isn't change for change's sake. It's intentional change for which we need to be wide awake. Wide awake to who we've been, who we are now, and who we intend to be. The shofar can be seen as our metaphorical candle. Each blast we hear tells us another day of Elul has passed, and we're inching closer to that new year. Of course, this idea is meaningful, and you may be thinking to yourself, well, that's a false premise. We don't stop changing on Rosh Hashanah. We don't get to the new year and then say, oh darn, whoever I got to, I have to be that person until we get to 5786, so I hope it was good enough. We know we keep changing. We always are constantly growing. But this Jewish season gives us a focus, something to focus on, changing, growing, becoming more of who we are. But it's Elul, and the flame is burning down. And while it's still lit, we do this highly personal, sometimes difficult work of looking inward and returning to our truest selves and adjusting where adjustments are needed. And like all difficult moments, we do it together. We are constantly changing, whether or not we are paying attention. So this year, let's pay attention. I want to conclude tonight with a blessing. It's a blessing not written by Jews, but I think it's so perfect for this moment. It's written by Kate Bowler and Jessica Ritchie in their book, The Lives We Actually Live. And may this blessing perhaps be our encouragement, and may it remind us that our ability to change is our strength. For when you need permission to change, blessed are you, dear one, when the world around you has changed. Everything is different now. Your body, your age, your relationships, your job, your faith. The things that once brought you joy, the people you loved and trusted and relied on, the way you exist in the world. Things have changed, and it would be silly to imagine you haven't been altered with them. You are not who you once were. Bless that old self. They did such a great job with what they knew. They made you who you were. All the mistakes and heartbreak and naivety and courage. And blessed are you who you are now. You who aren't pretending things are the same. You who continue to grow and stretch and show up to your life as it really is. Wholehearted, vulnerable, maybe a tiny bit afraid. Blessed are you, the changed. And we say together, Amen.